everybody. I'm just moving my microphone. Hold on one second. Okay. If you're watching this after I finish, I'm so sorry. I had to move it up a half an hour because I have to help a friend with a doctor's appointment, and I really didn't want to cancel today. So to fit everything in, I am starting at 12:30. Which is a half an hour earlier than my usual time. But I am excited about today's topic because I am wrapping up the pants draft fit design series that I did in January and February. And I just want to talk a little bit about the different books I used. I want to review different things that are important in the books. And then I want to just review the drafts. And I want to kind of give you my opinion about which draft I thought was best, and some thoughts about drafting and those kinds of things. So that's what I want to do today. And then starting next Friday, starting next week, we will be working on Bodice. And I'm going to work with a few different books like I did for pants to draft and then fit and then design bodices. And I just want to start out by saying if anybody is interested in really diving in deep to draft or to fit their own shirt pattern, I have 2 opportunities available. Starting this Sunday, I have a 12-hour, 3-week in a row bodice fitting Zoom class, which is nicely paced, so you have time to work on it between classes. So we'll spend 4 hours on the 1st, the 8th, and the 15th from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you'll be able to fit your bodice and learn how to fit yourself, and then fit your sleeve during that class. So if anyone's interested, I only have 2 people in the class. I'm not canceling it because I love to teach. So if anyone wants to join us, it'll be a really good opportunity for some one-on-one time because I don't expect to get a full class at this point because it's starting on Sunday. So I have that available. There's a link in the description. Also, I have a 3-day in-person bodice fitting class in Manchester, Connecticut. There's a link to that as well. That again will be a good opportunity for some quality time with me because there are only 3 people signed up in that class. And again, I'm not canceling it. 3 people is enough for me to not lose money. I don't think I'll make any, but that's okay. I'm really, really happy to just teach bodice fitting, and every time I do, I get better and better. So those are 2 opportunities. Both of those are in the description below if anyone's interested. So now we're going to wrap up pants. And speaking of pants, I was in Arizona this past weekend and I taught a pants fitting workshop there, and we had a really good time. I didn't post anything about that yet in my social media because I had a headache like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I felt better Sunday. Then we did some fun sightseeing on Monday with Lois and her husband, the people I stayed with, and her daughter. It was really fun. And then I basically shut myself into my hotel room and did my taxes. So I didn't post anything yet, and I also haven't gotten all the photos yet from Lois. So I will be posting about how that went and some things about that, in the next few days. But I had a really good time, and I think, everyone got a good pair of pants. I have one student who has a shape that I'm still working on, and I will be sharing, details about that shape, in general at some point once I figure it out. So that is what happened this past weekend. Now let me just stop and say hi to Victoria. And Cindy says, working on the other side of the room, so I'm listening. I did get 2 of the books, but haven't had a chance to start. Yay. I'm interested to see which books you got and which book you might be interested in trying first, but maybe you'll want to wait until I tell you what I think. And then Mary says, sorry, late doing dishes, making cinnamon swirl sourdough bagels. Oh my God, that sounds delicious. Mary, I killed my sourdough starter. I left it on the counter when I went to Arizona, and when I got back, it was moldy. So I have to start all over with my sourdough starter. But that sounds so delicious. All right, so what I want to do first is I want to review the books themselves one more time. I want to give you an overview of what you can um, get out of these books, okay, because it's a little bit different book to book to book. So let me switch my view here, and I'm going to start with the Jan Minott book because that's the book we started with. And in my opinion, this book is the most, what do I want to say, the most fitting friendly book out of the 3 books that I used. So um, I highly recommend, if you're going to draft out of this book, that you start on page 8 and really take your time and read through taking body measurements, what to wear, how to stand, and then there are some really good information about how to take measurements in here. And then it goes beyond just the measurements. For example, you can look to see what kind of shape you are. And then depending on what kind of shape you are, and there's photos, there's drawings of them here, there are different choices you can make in terms of, different shapes when you're drafting. So reading through all of this and being, understanding everything here, I think will really help you. It really goes into detail on that hip shape and how it will affect the draft. And then also posture, where, if you've got a tilted waist one way or the other. And then, reading through all of this stuff, looking at the ease chart, and then deciding how much you want to shift your waist measurement front to the front versus back, I think is really helpful. So if you review all of that and then do the hip block, that's really makes the draft so much easier. Okay, so having that hip block really makes the draft easier. So when you switch over to the draft itself, again, before you start drafting, I would read through all the information up to where the draft procedure starts. So, you can talk about, it reviews about, pants, shape and posture, using your skirt block. And then it even talks about, if you're making test pants, it's telling you to get some plain colored medium weight cotton polyester blend to test your pants. So it even gives you suggestions for that. And then, determining your requirements for pants, read through this because she takes the time to, oh, Mary just said, scrape the mold off and refeed it. I actually threw it away. I wish I had asked you about that before I did it. I threw it away, so I have to start over from scratch on my sourdough. All right, so the sizes of your body come into play. And then I found this very interesting. This diagram right here is showing you sort of, gee, are you round, or are you more wide side to side, or are you deeper front to back? Those are things that you can consider and then change your crotch extensions to agree with that. So I think that that's really good information. So I really think if you take your time and read through all of this information before you start drafting, it will help you get a better result. Reading through the wedge section is what makes your center back seam longer. So so read through the wedge section, and then the amount of wedge is affected by your body shape, and there's a chart here for that. And then the X section, where you slide the center, the back crotch up or down to make the inseams match the front. Just keep track of all of that. Read all of that first, and then you start the draft. And again, you can see it's all laid out nice and easily for you to start with marking your paper and then drawing in or tracing in your hip curve or your hip block. So, I really liked this procedure, and I think it really considers fitting from the start. And when I compare the muslins in a minute, you'll see where that comes into play. All right, so all of that is very good. And then I love all of the extra help after you draft. There's a list for checking the pants draft. There is detailed information about how to trace the pattern and how to make a test pant, and all of these things. Then there is fitting information, and actually, I like the fact that it talks about asymmetry and successful fitting tips. You know, if you read through all of this, I think it will help you be more successful. And then, of course, I love the wrinkle chart. I refer to these wrinkle charts all the time. So there is a wrinkle chart in here which will help you identify things that might be not working in your draft. You know, and it goes on and on. And then in the back, there is a method of measuring your personal pattern and using it to help you fit another pattern. So this is very interesting, and I might circle around and do this later, this adjusting commercial pants patterns, and having, you know, the pants code. The whole pant code thing is very interesting to me. I haven't had a chance to, you know, coding the style pants patterns. I haven't had a chance to really look at this deeply yet, but I think that there's a lot of good information here. So I love this book. I'll draft again with this book. I will say that I drafted pants out of here a long time ago, like maybe 10 years ago, and then I haven't really looked at it so much. But I think the more you draft a certain way, the better you get at it. And I'm gonna talk about that again in a second. Someone's asking, asymmetry conversation would be super helpful. All right, so if I look at the asymmetry here, where did I see that? Hold on. Where did we talk about asymmetry? Oh, the other thing is the Minott book has information about changing your draft into other styles like jeans and flared pants, which I think is also very helpful. So let me just go back to the asymmetry situation here. Where was that? Fitting. Hold on one second. There's what to do if you get a weight change. That's interesting. There's information on using a stable knit fabric. Where did I see the asymmetry, though? Hold on one second. Hold on. So generally, for asymmetry, the way I deal with that is I always draft or fit the higher or bigger side, and then I take in or shorten the side that is shorter or smaller. So in general, that's what I do. Oh my God, this is crazy to me that I flew by that page and now I can't find it. All right, hold on. Let me just look. I just want to breeze through and see what information she has specifically. I didn't deal with that when I was fitting myself because I really don't have any major asymmetry in my pants. Oh, asymmetry. Okay, so basically she says here, when the amount of the difference warrants it, follow the directions below. Drafting the pants pattern information on charts may also have to be compromised at times. So you may need to change what you're doing depending on the amount of asymmetry you have. So she's giving you guidelines for that, which I like. Oh, and Sue says, thanks for walking through the book page by page. It's really helpful. Oh, I'm glad you're appreciating the fact. And then also because I couldn't find the page. But the thing I like about the asymmetric figure information here is she gives you measurements for certain things, and if it's more or less, if it's less than her recommendation, I think she's like just, um, if it's less than a half an inch, for example, your floor to waist measurement, if it's less than a half an inch, leave it. But if it's more than a half an inch, um, work with the wider, work with she's agreeing with me. I think she's basically saying, if the floor to waist measurement on one side is a half an inch or more longer than the other, or if one hip is visually wider, trace the hip block for that side first. So she agrees with what I'm saying. Work with the taller or wider, and she recommends not making separate drafts for each side, but to adjust and shorten and take in the smaller or shorter side. So I find this very interesting that she gives you some guidelines there. So there is some good information about asymmetry, and she kind of agrees with the way that I do it. And then there are successful fitting tips here. So I really think there's a lot of great information in here, and I really would take some time and read through it before you start drafting. And then I found the drafting to be pretty easy once I got off camera and I didn't do it live. All right, and then the Don McCunn book is sort of, what I want to say, it's sort of fitting light. There is some consideration in this book for fitting, and I think I missed some of it when I skipped the skirt block here. So I did not do the skirt block, but if you look at the skirt block page, starting with the skirt sloper, okay, he gives information about, if, your body, and if you have a tilted waist. And then he even talks about, which I find very interesting, and I'm going to do a fit tip about this, and I can do it in the Bodice series, because it would also affect waist darts to a bust. But basically, depending on the curve of your lower back, the shape of your dart might change. And I found that very interesting. I really wish I had made a hip block before I drafted the pants, because I think the pants draft might have come out a little bit better if I had taken the time to do this first. So definitely read through the skirt information and make yourself a skirt block before you draft the pants if you're working in the Don McCunn book. And it's really it's an easy draft. Just like the Jan Minott, the skirt block is a very easy draft. Now, when you get to the pants draft itself, I found this very interesting. This line drawing right here, when I show you the pictures of how this fit me from the side view, this line drawing of the finished pant is almost exactly the way it hung on me. So I thought that was very interesting that I got the same fit as this drawing, basically. So that was kind of cool. So following along, the draft was pretty easy to do, and there is some consideration for whether you're standing and sitting, and how that changes the length of the back crotch. And remember, there's no ease in this draft, but there was some adjustment for that after. So after drafting, you did take some of the back side seam and put it in the front. And I also used the information on page 48 where you check the depth. And then I actually extended the crotches to agree with the depth requirement that I needed. So there is information. And actually, this page really is more about optimizing the pattern for a tummy, and so he extends the front crotch, not the back crotch, for a tummy that looks like these photos. So that was interesting. And he also deals with some leg shape issues over here. And then this is very interesting. There is some fitting information, and So everything you do in pants fitting has a compromise, and this is a perfect example here. If you see this illustration, he's explaining that a comfortable fit in pants, the back waist is gonna be at the back waist. All right. If you want a tighter fit and less vertical length on the back leg, then your back waistline can dip down. Now, it's a tight fit, so it's not going to be as comfortable as a waistline that stays at the waist at center back, but you can decide for yourself what kind of fit you'd like here. And there's some information about that in the fitting section. As well as going through, I skipped ahead to that because I was excited for that, but basically for fitting, he goes through the waist, the side seam, center front, center back, crotch curve, front and back inseams. So he's got some information about making adjustments there. And then there is more information about adjusting the back crotch curve by measuring from the floor up and comparing, your inseam to your, waist to crotch level measurement. So this is very helpful for getting the crotch correct. And then both Jan Minott, like I said, and Don McCunn have a lot of information about how to adjust the pattern for different styles. So you can see he's got all the different pants lengths here, and then he shows how to make adjustments for things. For example, how to take your trouser and make it a close fitting pant. And actually I used this to show how to add calf room to leggings. So I found that to be very interesting. So that's the Don McCunn book. Obviously I don't think it has quite as much information as the Jan Minott book for fitting, but there is a lot of good fitting information. The draft itself was very easy to do, once I was doing it by myself and I wasn't live. But basically, I do still recommend this book. I think this was a good book to work with. Now, the final book I worked with was the Nick Verreos and David Paul pattern making book for fashion design. Now, notice it says pattern making for fashion design. And that's exactly what it is. When you go to the pants fitting section, there is the pants drafting section, there is zero fitting help in this book. Okay? And this book really reminds me of the Helen Joseph Armstrong book, and that's how I learned to draft, with the Helen Joseph Armstrong book. So I think the reason why I really enjoy drafting in this book is because it felt so familiar to me, and I've done this method quite a bit. But there is information for taking your body measurements, and then I do like the thing I like about this book is that there is a photograph, not just line drawings, but actual photographs for every step. So I think out of the three methods, if you just want to draft pants and then fit them later, I think this is your best option, only because you don't get lost in the weeds with all of the fitting things that are incorporated into the draft. So it really depends on what your goal is for your draft. If you want to, do some fitting along the way, the Jan Minott or Don McCunn book might be a better option, because this is all just using your measurements and not really considering a lot about, what your shape is. So, and I actually, after I finished drafting, and I put my inseams together, I did extend my back crotch to make my depth correct. So I did a little fitting to it after, but it's a really good book for how to draft a pants pattern. Even though there is not any fitting information in there. But then again, after you get your final trouser draft, then there is information on how to make fitted pants, flared pants, and wide leg pants. So there's information about changing the changing the styles in here. So again, this would be good for someone who wants to do all the fitting after they make the after they make their pattern. Now, that being said, what I'd like to do now is I'm going to drag up my side view here. The side view, in my opinion, is the best view to look at when you're trying to decide, you know, what's going on with this pants draft. And I think you can see so let me just remind you, the left picture is the Nick Verreos draft. The middle one is the Jan McCunn draft, and the one on the right is the Don McCunn. So what I want you to notice here, oh wait a minute, let me just, you know what, I want to just verify I'm right. Let me just get a different view so I can see. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I'm telling you the right information. So this is Nick Verreos on the left, Jan Minott in the middle, and Don McCunn on the right. Now, what I will say here is, I really feel like, oh, Cindy said that she bought the Jan McCunn and the Nick Verreos books. Those are very good books. I think you're going to do really well with those, Cindy. Thank you for sharing that. So if you look at the side view, which draft looks like it has the most fitting in it? I would say the Jan Minott, the one in the middle, has more shape to the pattern, meaning, you can almost see my side silhouette, in the draft, whereas the Nick Verreos on the left and the Don McCunn on the right basically hang from my full hip, and you can't really see any detail of my shape below the full hip. Now, in fairness to Nick and Don, those were trouser drafts. The Jan Minott method was just pants drafting. So, I'm not really comparing apples to oranges here. I'm just saying that I feel like I got a better overall shape with the Jan Minott method, and someone's commenting that the side seam looks straight. It is. It's the straightest side seam. And so I would say the best draft overall of the three was probably the Jan Minott. But also, when you look at the front, let's look at the full picture here. So if I put this one down and I drag my, well, let's look at the back. So in the back, the Jan Minott in the middle looks like the crotch extensions are too short and it's pulling through, pulling there. Well, that's because if I show you the front has too much fabric. So what I would need to do to get my Jan Minott pattern to work is I'd have to take some of the crotch extension from the front and put it in the back, and then that would fix my front and it would fix my back. So I'm going to get this one as well just to show you here. So if you look at, you can see the front in the middle photo. See how there's extra fabric along the inseam and the front crotch? If I take some of that front crotch extension off, add it to the back, that would probably balance that pattern and I'd be all set. Now, the Nick Verreos draft, the only thing that I noticed in terms of needing to be fixed for a trouser is that my rise was too short. Pulling it up to my waist, I was basically pulling that center back edge into my body. You can see it's very tight there. And then if we look at the front, which is right next to it now, the front looks pretty good. It's a little bit of a fuller fit there. Not as full as the Jan Minott method. So also very easy to adjust. So you can see here I'm getting good results with all three of these. They all need minor work. So that's the Nick Verreos and the front and back view. And then if I just slide this over here, you can see the front and back of the Don McCunn. I think I need a little more crotch extension in the Don McCunn but also it's a pretty close fit. So basically, I feel like all three of them gave me good results. It's just each one had a different issue I would need to fix. Now, having shown you all of that, what I would also say is I got the I think I got the best overall fit or the best overall result from the Nick Verreos book, again because I am used to drafting that way. I think if I did a couple drafts in the Jan Minott book, I think my second draft would be better. And then, the more I work with a method, the better you get. Even though you're following the steps step by step, I really feel like there is a variable in that, practice makes perfect, right? So if you pick a method and you enjoy drafting with that method, no matter which one it is, the more you work with that method, the better you're going to get at it and the better shapes and results you're going to get. So that's how I kind of feel about that. So that's what I want to talk about for, doing these 3 drafts, and how I feel about which muslin was the best. All right, so Karen is asking me, oh, well, Sue had to go back to work. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, Sue, when you watch the replay. Oh, wait, I have to sneeze. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. I came back from Arizona with a stuffy nose, and I am so pleased to report it did not bloom into something more serious than just a stuffy nose. But I do have a little stuffy, but I feel perfect. I feel fine. Okay, so let's see. Victoria says, quite helpful. Can't wait to try the pants again. Good, good, good. And Karen is asking, which of the 3 books deals with a tilted waist? Both the Don McCunn and Jan Minott method deal with that. I think the Jan Minott method, though, deals with it more. I think there's more information for any of the fitting topics. I think the Jan Minott book has more information about fitting of these 3 books. Okay. So now the other thing I want to show you is, I made drafts and then I made copies of the pattern, and then you'll remember I used, hold on, let me get it. Someone had recommended this book to me as a good book. So I was looking through this book and I did the contoured fit. Now what I want to show you about the contoured fit, let me just move these out of the way. I just want to remind everybody what my pattern looked like. Let me get it out here. Oh, good, Karen. I'm glad that I think that will be helpful. I think that will be helpful. Okay, so this is my draft. And you can see I wore my Arizona pants on the first day of my pants fitting, and I want to tell you, I loved them. And they're in this room. I'll show you. I made this pair right here out of linen, and I don't know if you can see, but this is not going to be a linen. It's not going to be a recommended fabric, because I just want to show you, because I am developing this into a pattern to add to my collection, but you can see the linen is pulling away across my butt when I sit down because it's a snug contoured fit. But I really comfortable pants. I loved wearing these. So I have them in linen, and I also have them cut out and sewn up in a denim that has a minor amount of stretch. So for me, one of the things that was happening with these pants is I was getting extra fabric here. So like right here, I was getting a little bit of extra, like kind of fabric hanging out. So I shortened the front crotch in these denim ones. Let me just show you what I did. And I will show you the fit of these on another day. I'm not going to haul them on right now, but basically you can see here that to get rid of that extra, I pulled out the front. So you can see I took about, I don't know, like 3/4 out of the front, and that got rid of the extra that was there, but I didn't let out the back. So these don't stay up now because I shortened my depth to get rid of the front. So what I have to do is let out the back. So I'm going to adjust my pattern before I cut out another sample. What I'm going to do is, if you look at the, so let me just make this a little darker now. Oops. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut off some of this, and I'm going to put it over here. So I'm going to trim about 3/4 off, and I'm going to put it over here. And that's going to fix the extra that was hanging out here on my pants. But what I want to show you is, this was my sloppy copy, and I think if I go way out, you can see it. You know, here's my front leg. This is how my front leg looked, like this, right? My front leg. And then here is my back leg. And when I produce this to, when I produce this into a pattern for my collection, there is going to be different size fisheye darts, because depending on the shape of your upper thigh and the shape of your behind, you may not need as big of a fisheye dart, or you may need it to be bigger to get the fit. So I will be including information on how to adjust the fit of it by changing the depth of this fisheye dart right here. But what I want to show you is, you know, once you get to this stage and you've tested it and you know what the things are, you make a neat copy and you true it up. So I want you to look at this front leg, and I want you to notice how much neater it looks. So all the seam allowances are drawn in, right? And let's look at the back legs here. So see how much neater this is now? So I have a very neat copy here, and I'm going to cut this out and test it. So once you true things up and make a neat copy, you do want to make, I'm going to make another test of this. So I have a neat, I have a neat version here, and, it's going to be very excited to try it. Okay, and then once I try it, I am going to be developing this into a pattern to add to my collection. And I know you've heard me talk about, rebranding. Well, I am rebranding. So when I produce my Arizona pants, it'll have the rebranding right on it. So actually, it'll be the right branding from the first day. So I'm very excited about that. And just a little more information about my rebranding project. I'm going to be teaching at a show the week before H&H, the first week in May, in Chicago area, like somewhere in Illinois near Chicago. And I'm embarrassed to say, I'm just going to look it up really quick here. It's hold on, this is really embarrassing. I don't know the name of the thing I'm going to be doing. Hold on one second. All right, so let's see. It is it's the Fiber Fabric Craft Festival. So H&H is the show for sewing stores and people who have businesses who sell sewing stuff, and they're adding a consumer show the week before, or a few days before the H&H show on the weekend. So I will be having a booth at this show, and it's the first week in May. So that is going to give me a hard deadline to rebrand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebrand a capsule wardrobe. So in that, the patterns I'm going to rebrand first are going to be my raglan, my T-twin set, my my new Arizona pants, and my stretch jeans. So those 5 patterns will can be used to make a whole wardrobe. So it'll make a capsule wardrobe kind of thing. So I'm going to start with those 5 patterns, rebrand them or get them ready. There's going to be exclusive sizing up to size 32, and everything will be improved. So every pattern that's in that collection is going to get, I'm going to have my friend Eric actually analyze all of my pattern shapes because he is a technician in pattern design. So he's going to help me make sure everything is perfect. And then I'm going to launch those in the first week in May. So now I have a hard deadline. So I have a lot of work to do and I'm super excited. All right, let's see. Karen is saying, I just found a book through my library system called How to Draft Basic Pattern by Ernestine Comp, Victoria Rolfe, Beatrice Zenlin, and Lee Gross. It's surprisingly small but looks interesting. Oh, like I can never get too many. I can never get too many. I might have to go look for that book. I will tell you, I'm working with a man to fit pants. So I did purchase a men's drafting book. So I will be reviewing that in the next weeks. I might review the shirt section since we're starting bodices in March. So that brings me to the other thing I want to tell you here. I'm going to start out by, hold on, I think it's this one. Oh yeah, this is the total. I'm going to start out with Jan Minott's Total Fit Minott Method. And I don't know if she doesn't do, I don't think she does a draft in here. I didn't look. But I'm going to be using this book for fitting. And I'm going to find a book to draft. So I don't know what book will be my drafting book. But I will be reviewing this book as part of my Bodice, my Bodice series. So we'll be doing the Minott method for bodices too, but this will be the fitting section, not the drafting section. Oh, Karen says it's concise and not as detailed as the books you featured. Well, I mean, I would say that the Don McCunn book is pretty concise compared to the other two. The book is very small, and also it's, it's a small book. And the number of pages in here that are dedicated to pants, is not very many. I mean, it's all the information is in here, but I do think this is the most concise book out of the 3 that I worked with. So that is interesting that you bring that up. I think that's interesting. So, I mean, I have a bodice drafting series on my channel already, and I will provide links to that when I start the series, next week. So starting next week, all of my videos will be bodice related. So cool tools, I'll be reviewing a book. Tuesday will be a fit tip or a draft. And then Friday will be discussion and more fun about, bodice drafting, bodice fitting, bodice design. So my bodice method that I have right now only goes to the waist. So I'm going to look and see if I can find a book that drafts a torso. I mean, I haven't really researched this yet. I'll be getting this going for next week. So, but I am excited to have, be working on that as well. So again, if anybody is tired of trying to fit their own shirt, I do have those 2 fitting classes to go along with the bodice draft month on my channel. So again, if you want to join me for Zoom, or if you want to come to Connecticut, if you're flying in, I'll pick you up from the airport. It's easy peasy. I want to say easy peasy lemon squeezy. We have a really good time. But either way, you can get your shirt done in that amount of time, whether it's a Zoom or whether it's in person, because um, you know, I have very small numbers of students. So anyway, that is my report for today. Um, I'm going to sign off now because I have to go help my friend I've been helping do some things today. And I told her, I said, I can't do it at 1 o'clock exactly because I don't want to cancel Fab Fit Friday. And she was fine to wait for me. Um, oh, okay. Kay just said to me, not to be the bearer of bad news, but Janet Price sent out an email saying Connie Crawford passed away earlier this month. I did see that. So, I mean, let's take a moment and just, you know, that's, think about Connie. She was really a pioneer of our industry. She was amazing. So that is a super loss, and that is super sad. Thank you for bringing that up, Kay. Um, Karen says, I'm so looking forward to this. My bodice is more challenging than pants. Yay. And Give the Fly a Chance says, Hi, Jennifer. Great to see you live. I enjoy your videos and tutorials a lot. Greetings from Astrid from the Netherlands. Well, hello, Astrid, and thank you for checking in with me. And I'm so happy you can follow along. And I really like your @ name, Give the Fly a Chance. I love that. That's cool. Janet, yeah, I know. Okay, so I did know that Janet did purchase all of Connie Crawford's business. I was aware of that. Because I am friendly with Janet, and and I know that she does a lot of work with Carol from Ditto Form too. So I wish we all lived closer so I could spend more time with these people. Everyone that I'd love to just hang out with. It's just sad that we all live so far away. Oh, Karen said you must be a blessing to your friend. Thank you for all you do. In case so what Karen said, Jen. Oh, well, thank you. I'm one of those people where if someone I know needs help, I can't help myself but help them. I mean, that's what you do, and I'm sure you all would feel the same way. So, this is my 78-year-old friend, and she only has her sister-in-law who lives an hour away and also still works full time. So I feel blessed that I'm only 10 minutes from her. So today we're going to practice driving, and we're going to go to the grocery store. My husband took her to the doctor so I could pick her up from the doctor. That's why I scheduled this a half an hour early, so I'll be able to get there in time to pick her up after her doctor's appointment. But I think, especially in today's temperature and climate and what's going on, everything that's going on with all the craziness, I think if you just take the time to help somebody else, even if it's a little thing, I mean, ultimately it makes you feel better too, right? Like I don't know. I feel blessed that I can take time off and help if people need it, and then I'll work at the times I'm not helping. So, and I also appreciate you all coming on a half an hour early to make it possible for me to do that. So you guys get a gold star too because you're helping me fit everything in. Oh, Barbara goes, have a wonderful time with your friend. She is so sweet. She is so sweet. And, the thing is about her, she's so respectful of my time. She'll say to me, all right, you spent enough time here. Go away and live your life. You have to go live your life, or you have to go take care of your family. She's very respectful of my time. So that just that makes me want to spend more time with her because she's just so gracious on her end too. So I will have a nice time checking in with her. I feel a little, withdrawal because I haven't seen her since last Tuesday because I was getting ready to leave for Arizona, and then I haven't seen her since I got back yet. So it will be a nice afternoon to spend time with her. So thank you for that, and again, thank you for coming on a half an hour early. I appreciate it. So I think I'm gonna go now, and if you have any questions about any of these pants things, you can put your questions in in the chat thing, and I will help you if you're watching this after the fact. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you draft some pants because it's really fun. And then I'll see you next week for bodices. That's going to be really fun too. So thank you, everybody. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week with a full schedule. Full schedule. Cool Tool, Fit Tip, Fab Fit Friday next week. It'll be exciting. All right. Bye-bye.